I'm Raghav. Good evening to everyone. As mentioned, I have done my BSc in Finance from IIM School of Commerce. Post that, I have 4 years of work experience. I was working in the finance industry as an equity research analyst initially, and then I was working in investment banking. Post that, this year I gave my CAT, and I'm now studying my MBA, doing my MBA from IIM. And I've also done 2 levels of CFA. That's a bit brief background about me. I'll dive right into it. So the way that I've thought about it is that when I talk about my CAT journey, I would talk about like my CAT preparation specifically. And then if there are any questions related to the interview prep, we can discuss them later. Is that fine?
Yes, you can start by introducing how you prepared for the CAT, and after that, we will open for question and answer session so that students can interact with you.
Sure. So guys, like one thing off the bat I want to like clarify, right? It is never too late. So CAT 2023, like I have around 4 years of work experience, which a lot of you might think is too late. But what we don't realize is that an MBA is something that you do only once in your life. It's a very big decision, right? So if you have given CAT once or multiple times, that does not mean the end of the road. I have personally given CAT like 4 times, and my like initially a couple of attempts I did not give very seriously, but like the last 2 attempts were serious attempts, and in the second attempt I got in. So there was always a probability to get discouraged and not like pursue this, but trust me, like it's worth it because it's a very long term decision that you're going to take. Now, in terms of strategy, I think like the most important thing for me is like twofold. One is having a structure to your preparation, and the second one is doing mocks and sectional. So just in talking in terms of having a structure, right? This is how I went about it. Like by having a structure, I mean that you decide how much time or effort you want to dedicate to CAT, and then you give that every day. You ensure that you do not miss out even a single day, and if you do, you cover it up the next week or next day, whatever, right? So in terms of my prep, I decided that I have to do around say 1,000 questions of quants, right? And I saw the number of days that I have till CAT. 6 weeks before CAT was the cutoff date for me. So from day to day, like today I'm the 13th August, say CAT is on 29th November as it was in my year. So I will consider 15th October. I will count the number of days. That's roughly 2 months. That's 60 days. So I will say that I will do 1,000 by 60 questions every day. Like if that is the target that you're setting for yourself, right? So if you divide your work into what you have to do every day, slowly you would start seeing that effort compound as you move towards the end. And I'm not saying that you have to do everything, right? You have to be like smart, strategic in your prep also. CAT is a lot about strategy. No one can solve like the entire paper, the entire quants paper or something, right? You can pick and choose your topics. That is not the objective. But the objective is if you have taken 6 subtopics, you're going to like dedicate your time and structure towards it. And the second aspect is mocks. I, from July or August, I gave one mock every 2 mocks every weekend, right? So by the time CAT came, like I had done 45, 50 mocks at least. And I personally believe that mocks is the best way that someone can learn. So for my QUAT 2022 attempt, I prepared for 3 weeks. That's it. And I only give mocks, one mock every day. With that, by giving a mock, and obviously the more important factor is analyzing the mock. So you give a mock and then you go and analyze it. You go and analyze and you see whatever your mistakes, you solve questions so that you understand the formulas again, right? Once you do that, like I was able to score 98 percentile just by doing 3 weeks worth of mock. That's how important mocks are. So be structured, give your mocks sectionals on weekends. And given that 6 week window that I talked about, right? Dedicate that entirely towards your mocks and sections. I believe that though is literally the best practice that you can give yourself, not just in terms of the questions you're solving, but also the time. So if my slot was like the afternoon slot, I used to sit in front of the computer at 12 o'clock so that from 12 to 12:30, I'm not doing anything. And then from 12:30 to 2:30, I'm giving that mock. So you try to simulate as much as you can the actual on-day conditions because a lot depends on your actual on-day conditions. In the end, it's one day. That is unfair to anyone who's prepared and worked hard for it. But but all you can do is try to control the variables and make the most of it.
Okay, so I have opened the chat and all of you are given the right to unmute yourself. So if anyone has any questions for the topic, you can ask now, or you can write in the chat box and I can share with the Raghav so that he can answer your queries.
Hello. Hi, sir. So
I
this
will.
is Vaishak. So basically, you said that you worked for 4 years before attempting for CAT. I mean, before joining the B school. So how did you prepare while working? Because even I
So
am working, so just wanted to know.
yeah, so that's the thing. That's what I meant by like having a structure. My strategy was trying to like do the question, like whatever I had planned during the day before I went to office. So my office used to start fairly late at 11. So whatever time that I have to give, right? Like whether it's 2 hours or 3 hours, I wake up that early and try to cover that because I realize that often once you come back from office, you don't have that level of motivation to study. So that's why I tried to like do it in the morning. But whatever was left over, obviously I tried to like come back and do it also. And that's why I kept weekends for specifically for mocks because that gave me a full day to actually give a mock and analyze it fully.
So one of the students is asking that how did you deal with your failures? Means if you are giving mocks, so someday you could have scored a higher percentile such as 98 or 99 or 97, but some days would have been just opposite of that you are reaching 85 or sometimes 80 or less. So how did you deal with that?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And honestly, I think the only mantra or like, I know it's general gyan, but it is about trusting the process. See, if you have reached a stage where you are scoring a good percentile, right? Even if you have like I had 2 weeks where I had like four consistently bad mocks, and that is obviously very demotivating. But you have to look at from the lens that if I have done well in 5 mocks before this, there is no way my preparation that I have done has led me to a failure now. Like I am never going downhill. So trust that process, that effort will compound and gradually you'll see those results. And honestly, sometimes a bad mock can do more for your CAT preparation than a good mock. Because when you do a bad mock, you have to go and analyze a lot more things. Maybe you learn a lot more things from that. So the only motivation was, if thank God this is wrong today and not on the actual CAT paper.
Okay, one more student asked this question. How did you go about analyzing your mocks? So means first part is giving the mocks, that is important. But the second
Right.
part is analyzing those mocks and how to cope up with it or how to check with the whether how you are progressing or how you are which sections are weak or which sections are strong. So how did you go about it? How did you analyze your mocks and
Right.
what was your process about it?
Yeah, so let's start with all three sections. So suppose English, right? I think English is like the toughest to sort of analyze because there's a lot of subjectivity to it. So first, you try to see the kind of questions you're getting wrong. So if there's a pattern, suppose in RC, I'm getting inference questions wrong particularly, right? So that can be like one identification. So my objective then becomes to work on inference questions. If I'm getting para jumbles wrong consistently, right? Also, you have to analyze the time you're spending. So suppose you can try like one or two strategies, whether you do RCs first and then you do VA, whether you do VA first and then RC, right? Try a couple of strategies, whatever works for you. Then you stick to that. So analyzing mocks basically is about, okay, I am doing this XYZ wrong and I have to work on it. Like that is it for like sort of VA because I don't think you can go and analyze every single question in verbal ability because okay, you can read an RC again, you realize okay, this might be the interpretation. I might have skipped it because of lack of time. So I have to focus more on time management now, right? Or say para jumbles. So I practice more para jumbles in sectionals. Then coming to DILR, honestly, if I got a set right in the paper, I would not do it. But any set that I could not solve, I would sit with it and I'll solve it till I actually got the solution. Only giving up after like I have exhausted my mental bandwidth, and then I look at the solution and then try to like do it again. So that if I am not doing it this today, at least the next time I see this question, there's a higher probability that I am able to do it. Similarly for quant, all the questions that you get right, but the only caveat in quant is even if you get a question right, you should see the approach that the professor is using, because that would give you a hint whether there's a faster way to do what you did right. And that might sometimes save you valuable seconds, which you can use in other questions. So in quant also, if you're fairly sure that this is the best strategy, you can skip those questions. But the questions you got wrong, even if there are subjects that you are not like preparing for your final CAT, just look at the solution once, try to understand it, because you might just see a similar question and like you'll get an extra question free for like CAT.
Okay, we have one more question from our student here. So there is a question that suppose we are having a habit of giving RCs and giving quants questions. Okay, so from school life we have given RCs or reading comprehensions and these type of questions. But if you take a DILR as a section, so it is a totally new section. Okay, so these type of questions, puzzles, and those sitting arrangement questions, these type of questions are never taught or never systematically taught to you. So how did you go about starting preparation for it? Because if you just jump into it, the questions hit you like a sandbag. So that's very difficult. But how did you start to prepare about those questions?
So I feel that if like that is the case, right? So DILR, you're right, we don't study it, but I think DILR is always taught to us in a lot of different ways. Like DILR is ultimately logic, right? So if I have to cross from like A to B, I can either go from C or D. And I would ideally choose the less riskier route or the faster route. So everyone has an inbuilt logic within our minds. It's just they complicate that problem so much that we are unable to use that logic to our advantage. So I would suggest in that scenario to start out with basic questions first, right? So if there's an arrangement question, start with simple arrangement questions and then progress to the tougher ones. Because once you start solving that, your brain will start thinking in that way, making you well equipped to like answer those questions, like the tougher ones.
Okay, so we have one more question from a student. That when is the right time to start giving mocks? Is it that you have to start giving mocks at the start of the preparation, or you have to just first build up some foundation and then after you gain or you build up some knowledge, then you give mocks?
I think as soon as possible. Like there is no point in delaying giving a mock. Even if you give a mock today, I think you can get more out of it than you can get by studying. So you might say that okay, but I have limited number of mocks. You can always get more mocks. So there is absolutely no point in delaying. Like that's the first thing I would say. Start giving your mocks whenever you have the time, and I think that is the best step you can do for yourself.
What was your strategy of doing the mocks? Whether you were timing it or whether you were just solving all the questions then answering about that?
Fair. I think like honestly, while you're giving a mock, you should answer within that time frame. You should take 40, 40, 40. And then once you're done with that mock, once you're analyzing the mock, then you can solve all questions. You can take how much ever time that you need. Because if you don't get yourself used to that 2 hour grind, I think you will like, there will be substantial difference between someone who has been doing that. So once you train your brain to work in that crisis mode, how well you are thinking when you have that time pressure on your head, I think it makes a huge difference.
Thank you for answering all the questions of our student.
Thank you so much. All the best to all the aspirants, and good evening.